Kurlantzick is the Senior Fellow for Southeast Asia at the Council on Foreign Relations. Joshua, how difficult will it be to actually get into power, bearing in mind those seats that are essentially reserved for the military?
It's going to be challenging because the military controls the Senate, which is 250 unelected seats, and you have to win a majority of the lower house and the upper house. So 500 lower house seats plus 250 unelected upper house seats loyal to the military to be prime minister. Even if you have a sweeping victory like this, the military still could put together a coalition of smaller parties, military aligned parties, and combine that with the unelected senators and just squeak by and pick a prime minister. Now, I think that still remains a very strong possibility, given Move Forward's pretty radical views. But if they do that, you're going to wind up with enormous popular protests. And if the history of Thailand shows us anything, bloodshed as well.
I mean, elsewhere, one would say that it is, flying in the face of the will of the people. But the military has done that before. And as you say, electorally could do it again. If Move Forward comes in, does manage to eke their way in, is the military in the prospect of a coup that remote? Or, is it a case of don't push too far, we're watching what you do?
Prospect of a coup is never remote in Thailand. They've had 18 or 19 coups or attempted coups since the end of the absolute monarchy in the 1930s. They have an established coup culture where the military believes that if things are chaotic or if the military and the monarchy's interests are being challenged, that they step in. The current armed forces chief has said that a coup is that the military will not step in, but that's about as believable as that's not believable. Right. They've said that many times before and then stepped right in. So if they feel that a Move Forward led coalition would be very strongly contrary to the military and most importantly, the monarchy's interest. This monarch is not really a constitutional monarch. He's really pushing towards more like absolute monarchy. A coup is definitely never out of the question.
Right. So
Thailand has always the sort of a default option of a coup.
Right. Well, one of the things, of course, on the monarchy, the lèse-majesté, the very, very strict rules, that means even as I talk to you now, one has to be certainly circumspect, since at some point we may all end up going to Thailand or may visit Thailand. But at some point, there is a view that needs to change, that the monarchy needs to reflect more the traditional constitutional monarchy, particularly in an environment where where the incumbent is perhaps not as popular as predecessor, his father.
Well, I think there was pressure to reduce the lèse-majesté law 112, even under the previous very well-liked king. In fact, that king said he was not above criticism. Himself, he said that. What's happened is 112 law, the lèse-majesté law, has been expanded enormously to attack all sorts of dissidents, while at the same time you have a king who is not, frankly, well liked by the populace. He's not his father, and he has taken a series of steps to consolidate enormous political and economic power that is just not comparable with a constitutional monarchy, and things that his father in the past left to technocrats, he has taken on for himself. And so those things combined with a terrible economy and poor COVID management by this current government has led to just enormous anger, particularly among young Thais.
So as this continues and as we see the machinations, we'll be back to talk to you to help guide us through. I'm very grateful. Thank you.